So what people are really wanting, of course, in all of this, is some sense of going somewhere, some sense which is a direction, and, you know, the word vision. And that, again, I suppose the question I'm indirectly asking you is, what will Umeå be earning its living from in 30 years' time? Now, it may be, and I'm not saying it is there's a certain sort of slowness here, which I think is a positive slowness. I mean, in England, the slow cities movement, the first city came up and said, oh, we don't want to be called a slow city because people think we're stupid. You know, the English is supposed to understand irony. But anyway, they didn't understand the irony of the slow city, slow food thing. But again, when you're talking about quality, which you need quality, obviously one needs quality in food, for example. So slowness in that sense, I'm talking about, is something that's about being smart and slow. And you probably know about the slow food movement, and related to that, the slow cities movement, which is all about unique, distinctive products, very technologically advanced, and it's the opposite of stupid. They're not stupid cities, they're very clever cities. So I'm not saying you do that, but it's somehow you've got a feeling here that pushed me into that direction. And within that, of course, I suppose my question is, how in a winter city do you create these public arenas? And the interesting thing about slow is that so many cities talk about fast. Everywhere you go, you have speed. And I found this in Romania, which was very interesting. There was this shop which was called No Stress. Next to it was a funeral parlour, Pompe Funebre, which says 24 hours non-stop. So if you die now, you can immediately be buried. It's a very interesting style of living. You know, like, you dead? Let's get you buried. Out of the way. Let's move on. Now, you see what I'm really saying? I'm trying to contrast all the time different perspectives on a sense of how a city lives and thinks of itself. So obviously, and here it's true, great cities, just to come back to that, are places of encounter and transaction. And we discussed last night the fact that you've got, was it 10% or 20% of people? 10% of people continually going in and out is obviously a lot about transaction, exchange, and so on. And if you build your 80-kilometre, whatever it is, down to Vasa, there'll be more exchanges even. But anyway, clearly that is one of the elements, and one of the elements of your city will clearly be variations of intensifying the nature of international exchanges even more than you already do, which is well beyond financial exchange like this image here. And again, my obsession with places that are public in some way where people can meet. Or in this case also religions. This is in Penang. I thought it was quite interesting. This is a DVD shop. Quite strange, 3 religions there. So that's covering that area. Now I'm nearly finished, and you'll be pleased to know that, is that in one way, the art of, I've said it here, the art of living together is the central dilemma, conviviality and so on. And whatever that, the great cities of the world all managed to do that in some way, even ancient Rome, although it was a mad place. But one of the dilemmas I do think, this is Cordoba, which as you know is the great mosque, and they put a cathedral inside it. And these tensions are one that I think are quite interesting. I mean, here, this is Istanbul. Here's a shop called Trendy. We would never call a shop trendy. That's an old word, I suppose. Where these naked mannequins are in. But now just look at the next picture. That is next to the mosque. Now, the interesting tension of this next to the mosque, and this is just an image for me to reflect that sort of question of dialogue that is going on. So diversity, which is good in general, and we did a lot of work around this, it shows, the work we were trying to work out is, do you become more innovative as a city if you're more diverse? And the answer to it was, I'm simplifying, was that initially it's better to be homogeneous because it's easier. If you manage to deal with the conflicts and mediation, you get a greater level of innovation if you manage to do that. So that is just the summary of the work we've done. But I do think it's a very fragile thing, how that works. And clearly cities are more diverse, you will become more diverse, and so on. So the question of managing that is important, and the reason I'm just so focused on that is I did quite a bit of work in Bosnia, and this is Mostar. But what's interesting about this image, this is the line where the Croats and the Bosniaks and everyone met, absolutely the line, what do you call it, where they were both shooting at each other. Isn't it interesting that a cultural institution is the healing element at that crossroads going straight across that boundary? So they've set up, they're just building this cultural institution now. So in that sense, that's another variation of culture. And clearly I know that some people feel this is chaotic and can be in some sense, difficult dealing with these issues. And some people indeed feel you want to just hide and pretend it doesn't exist. This is in Los Angeles, just in case you want to know where this is, but this person, I suppose, is sticking their head in the wall. So that, of course, is about a negotiation of conflict. And all I'm really saying, I'm using the word conflict a lot because I think it's not necessarily cozy in some sense. And here's an interesting project in Rotterdam where new people meet old original people across a table, and it's a project where the newcomers have to, in a sense, meet local people. And they do things together. So the guy there, that guy who's about 58, he went to a football match and someone else did something else together. So that question is really the same point I'm making all the time. How do we meet is really important. But the how do we meet also has an implication in terms of authorities. Because what I'm always talking about is the same thing. Even organisationally, we are in our silos just as much as we are as social groups, in fact, and are leading parallel lives. So that ability to go over boundaries seems to me the really important thing. And I noticed in the bid you talked about being the open gateway city and so on, where you wanted to attract people to stay. So anyway, I suppose what I'm really saying, and I use graffiti sometimes, because graffiti sometimes tells you where you want to go, because here it says, if you wish hard enough, your dreams can come true. Anyway, what I think I've said is these 5 points. Great cities are places which have an anchorage, some sense, an identity. They give you a sense of possibility. You connect there, you're inspired, but they're also places where you're continually learning in a lifelong learning sense. And by the way, this is Singapore again. There's a room in their library called the Possibility Room. I quickly took a photo and ran away because I didn't want to know what they were doing there. I thought I was, but nevertheless, I quite like the idea that they have rooms there called the Possibility Room. And obviously all of that is about the type of things we've already discussed, linking science, art, and so on together. Now, I think, therefore, great cities deal with that conflict of belonging but change. I think they deal with that sense of being true to tradition but being able to innovate at the same time. I think they understand where they come from in their roots, and that's why I like the phrase the northern room in the European house in your bid. Because, for example, here, this could only come from Italy. This is an underground station in Italy, and this is a Cinquecento. It could only be in Italy. That is Naples metro station. It would be stupid if we did the equivalent here. And in this tradition innovation thing, I think we have to, if we take that, the Eiffel Tower, the amount of engineering things that are in the Eiffel Tower that we still use today shows that rather than saying today's class was yesterday's innovation as it was, is what can we in Umeå build that will become tomorrow's heritage? That's another way of phrasing that same question that I've just put there.